Retro.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Devil's Digest game preview as Arizona State gets set to host Kansas in its first Big 12 home game here on Saturday at 5 p.m. at Mountain America Stadium. My name is Justin Lacertosa. Alongside myself, as always, is publisher Hod Rubino. And Hod, coming off a bye week where Arizona State got a chance to refresh, get their legs back under them. This is a Kansas team that is 1-4 right now, had higher expectations coming into the season, but surely here at home, a must-win game for Arizona State.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Justin. And I know must-win is just one more of many sports cliches that sometimes gets overused, sometimes not even put in the right context. But make no mistake about it. I really do think this is a must-win for Arizona State. They are meeting a Kansas team, and as you can see by some of the stats we're about to present here, they don't look like a 1-4 team. ASU head coach Kenny Dillingham made that crystal clear that this is going to be a much tougher opponent than people think it is if they just looked at both records of both teams. But at the same time, Arizona State is a team that I know from my experience covering the team for the last 25 years. And Justin, your esteemed colleagues at Cronkite Sports did point out that Arizona State, when they play their first game out of a bye week since 2014, they are 3-8. So it seems like it doesn't matter who the coach is in Tempe, what players he has on his squad. This is a program that, for one reason or another, does very poorly coming out of the bye week. I do think Arizona State does have some momentum on its side. Sure, they did lose their first game of the year on the road to Texas Tech right before the bye week. But I think the 3-1 record is a record that, at least for a lot of people outside the program, has been a pleasant surprise. And if you're going to come out of the bye week and lose to a Kansas team that's not only 1-4, but it's actually losers of 4 games in a row, I think that puts just a whole negative spin on the direction of this 2024 season. And look, I mean, I know no ASU coach or player is going to tell you that they're looking ahead to next week. Huge game against Utah. It's going to be also a short week, a Friday night game. And you have a Utah team that ironically is going to come into Tempe off their own bye week. And make no mistake about it, their starting quarterback, Cam Rising, who has been dealing with an injury this year, is definitely going to play in that game. So if ASU loses to Kansas on Saturday, and now you got Utah coming into town on a short week, that's not really an ideal scenario to really have a good season. And lastly, I will say, Justin, that look, if ASU wins on Saturday, they're going to have 4 victories. That is one more than they had last year and even the year before that, for that matter. No, that's not a reason to throw a parade to Saturday night down Mill Avenue, but it still shows that the program is going in the right direction. So again, must win is a term that sometimes gets misplaced. More than actually being placed in the right context. But I absolutely think that this game for the Sun Devils on Saturday at 5 o'clock is a must-win.
Yeah, Hod, you mentioned it. Kansas wasn't projected to be 1-4 coming into this season, one of the better teams in the entire conference. And Kenny Dillingham said it himself, a couple things go different in a couple of these games, and the outlook on this program for this season is completely different. And this is a team that has one of the best rushing attacks in the entire conference, despite what the record might say. What do you think ASU's defense needs to do to sort of capitalize on that and contain that?
Yeah, and I think, Justin, you and I talked early in the season, maybe even the preseason, about this Big 12 being an absolute gauntlet of ground attack. So even though you have a team like Kansas, ranked in the preseason number 19, but still finds itself at a 1-4 record, the ground attack hasn't been an issue at all. Devin Neal is averaging 102 yards. The rushing game as a total is averaging 226 yards. So the issues that the Jayhawks do have on this side of the ball are definitely not grounded in the run game by any means. But now you look at the other side of the coin, and you look at quarterback Jalen Daniels, not Jaden, don't make that mistake, and he is somebody who struggled quite a bit, averaging just over 160 yards passing, has 5 touchdowns but 8 interceptions, completing only 53% of his passes. So granted, every defense, and ASU is not going to be any different, they're going to go in with the clear intent to really slow down the Kansas run game. Now, when you look at the numbers, that's not something that opposing defenses have been successful, but if they put Kansas in just enough obvious passing situations, then Daniels in the passing game are really challenged, and at least judging by their body of work for the first 5 weeks of the season, have not done so well when the onus now is shifting from the run game from the run game to the passing game. So I think ASU's defense is going to be very comfortable crowding the line of scrimmage, seeing if Daniels and the passing attack can really beat them. The one thing you have to keep in mind, and Kenny Dillingham mentioned this, that sometimes teams like Kansas, where they have such a dominant running game and maybe you're not giving that much respect to their passing game, can be really, really dangerous with the play action passes. And play action pass by default is a play call that oftentimes is not run in an obvious passing situation. So I think that if you do just force Kansas to be more often than not in passing situations, then you really take the sting out of the run game, so to speak, and really just have Daniels in the passing game, try to be the aspect of the offense that's really going to determine matters in this game. So I think that's going to be the defensive approach for Arizona State. Again, maybe way too transparent. But when you look at Kansas struggling on this side of the ball, especially with the passing game, it seems like to be a formula that really does work more often than not against the Jayhawks.
Yeah, and we've seen Arizona State's defense come up time and time again. So another test here against Kansas. But Kansas's run defense is pretty stingy in its own right, and ASU, a team that likes to win games on the ground, a lot of credit goes to Cam Skattebo in that regard. Not just him, but the entire running back room, Sam Levitt as well. Make a lot of the money on the ground with their rushing attack themselves. So what do you expect to see out of ASU's offense going against a tough run defense?
Yeah, when you talk about head-scratching stat, when you look at Kansas's record and their achievements in the run game, I think in the defense it's even more mind-blowing. I mean, take a look at these stats. They're yielding 126 yards on the ground. Not horrible by any means. They're yielding per rush only 3.6 yards. And it's not like they're just a one-dimensional defense, because their pass defense is yielding, on average, only 211 yards. This is a unit that has, just through 5 games, 10 sacks, 31 tackles for loss, 5 interceptions. So you just look at the stats and how on God's earth is this team 1-4? Well, I think it just really comes down to this defense not being complemented by the offense, being on the field way too long, and just having those physical and mental breakdowns, especially in the second half. Now, for Arizona State, like I said, Justin, it can't be just Cam Skattebo. It really has to be this running back by committee, something that we expected to see in the beginning of the season. Really hasn't happened. I asked Kenny Dillingham in his press conference the Monday after the Texas Tech game, is that really going to come to fruition? And Kenny Dillingham admitted that because Cam Skattebo is one of those uber alpha males that's saying, I'm okay, I'm not tired, you don't have to put me on the sideline, then maybe he gets overused. Now, in fairness to Kenny Dillingham and the game plan when it comes to the rushing attack, having injuries to DeCarlos Brooks and Raleek Brown really did, by default, put more of the onus on Cam Skattebo. But when you look at Arizona State's overall health, this is the healthiest this team has been since the beginning of the season. So both Raleek Brown and DeCarlos Brooks are absolutely capable enough to get a significant number of snaps each and just lessen the load on Cam Skattebo. Another aspect that Kenny Dillingham mentioned in this regard is that when you have different running backs, it's not a matter of just keeping everybody fresh, but it's also presenting different running plays and running styles, because you have a different running back now carrying the ball. And for a very stout run defense like the Jayhawks, that's something that I think is not a luxury, but really a necessity. When you look at the running game for ASU, there's no doubt that in its 3 wins, you really couldn't have done it without them. And I know you're going to maybe look at the stats from the Texas State win and say, well, does that really jive? But take a look at the rushing yards in the fourth quarter versus the first 3. And Arizona State was absolutely able to put that game away because they rushed the ball well in the fourth quarter, even though that was in somewhat of a sharp contrast to what took place in the preceding 3 quarters. So if Arizona State's running game, again, the healthiest it's been in terms of its stable of running backs, can really make some serious gains, pun intended, against Kansas, I think this offense should be able to come back to come with a W. And we already saw that even when quarterback Sam Levitt does put up really good numbers in the passing game, if the running game is not there to complement him, then sometimes the results are really, not all that desirable and effective. So a balanced offense for ASU is obviously the goal in each and every game. But I think that even though Kansas is obviously no slouch at all when it comes to halting ground attacks, I think the health of the ASU running backs should come to the forefront and really should be prominent in this game.
So the Sun Devils set to get back to business on Saturday following the bye week, a little fresher, a little healthier, but once again, even though Kansas is 1-4, it doesn't really represent the team as a whole, and this is a must-win game for ASU, who could potentially fall to 0-2 in conference play so far. What do you sort of expect to see out of this matchup?
Well, I think that ASU really has to use the advantages that they have right now. They're coming out of the bye week. They're rested, refocused, and again, they're healthier than they ever have been this season. It's going to be a 5 o'clock kickoff. Temperatures are definitely going to be in the hundreds, and I know that there's so much talk. Throughout the decades by ASU coaches and players and fans, the heat is really going to affect the opponent and this, that, and the other. Well, it really needs to come to fruition. And I think that when you look at the history of ASU football, it doesn't really always happen in that regard. Kenny Dillingham said that the stadium is a near sellout. So that's something also that ASU has to use to its advantage. But I think more than anything, Justin, ASU maybe had some white knuckle wins. Well, not maybe, for sure, white knuckle wins. Had some wins that were just a little too close to comfort. But ASU is a team that finds ways to win. And you look at Kansas, during their 4-game losing streak, they're finding ways to lose. And I think more than anything, when you look at 5 weeks of football, in the case of Kansas, 4 weeks of football of ASU, at some point maybe those aspects really become part of your DNA as a program. So ASU is going to have one heck of a challenge. We'll say it one last time. This Kansas team is not reflective of the 1-4 record. But I think ASU can win this game. Yes, it's going to be another close one. Not going to say ugly, but it's definitely going to be a win where the grit and, again, just the fact that ASU finds ways to win games this year is something that's going to be prominent on Saturday evening. I think ASU is going to win this game 27-23.
Well, thank you, Hod, for all of your insight. This has been the Devil's Digest game preview. We'll be here at Mountain America Stadium on Saturday at 5 p.m. for all the pre-game, in-game, and post-game coverage. Go to DevilsDigest.com. Follow Devil's Digest on Twitter at Devil's Digest. My name's Justin Lacertosa. That's publisher Hod Rubino. We'll talk to you guys soon.